You rarely notice it happening at first. It doesn't arrive with any noise or urgency. Instead, time slips away in the mundane spaces between one scroll and the next, between I still have time and I'll do it later. And then suddenly you look up and realize hours, maybe years, have disappeared while nothing important moved forward. The disturbing part is the realization that wasting time felt perfectly normal while it was happening. That tightening in your chest right now is recognition, the feeling of a hidden pattern being named. We usually label chronic procrastination as a character flaw, assuming we lack the discipline or the motivation of high achievers. But that explanation is harmful because it ignores the actual biology of the brain. Psychologists view time wasting as a sophisticated coping mechanism. Your brain is performing exactly as it was designed. It is protecting you. If wasting time functions as a defensive shield, we have to look at what's behind it. We have to find the specific threat your mind is trying so desperately to avoid. To find the answer, we have to look at the phrase, "I'll do it later." While it sounds like a scheduling choice, it's actually a strict emotional calculation. Your brain is measuring the immediate discomfort of a task and deciding it's too high to pay right now. The physical work of a project rarely causes the delay. Instead, we react to psychological friction. Meaningful work triggers uncertainty and the risk of discovering we aren't as capable as we hope. Your brain views those feelings as a direct threat to your well-being. This chart clarifies the brain's dilemma. Meaningful work offers a delayed reward, guarded by a massive wall of friction. Modern digital distractions offer the opposite: zero friction and a guaranteed immediate hit of dopamine. Because the human brain evolved to prioritize immediate survival, it naturally opts for the safe, low-risk reward. It takes the path of least resistance, trading a known comfort now for a heavy regret later. This trade creates a dangerous cycle. Relying on effortless dopamine trains your neural pathways to expect ease. Over time, this makes meaningful effort feel significantly more difficult, not because the work changed, but because your tolerance for discomfort has been eroded. Chronic scrolling is the logical result of a hijacked reward system choosing the safest available option. If you track your habits, you'll see that distraction almost always follows an emotional spike. Boredom, loneliness, and overwhelm act as triggers that send us looking for an escape. At this level, time wasting serves as emotional anesthesia. We avoid the work because we are avoiding how the work makes us feel about ourselves. This flowchart illustrates the trap that keeps people stuck for decades. Avoiding a task provides a brief moment of relief, but that relief inevitably turns into guilt. Because guilt is another painful emotion your brain wants to escape, it defaults to the only solution it knows: more avoidance. Your inner critic makes this worse. The voice that shames you for wasting time actually fuels the loop, creating the exact emotional overwhelm that makes you reach for your phone again. Long-term procrastination is a self-sustaining psychological trap powered by unrecognized shame. To understand why that shame is so heavy, we have to look at the identity gap. You likely carry a mental image of a more disciplined, successful version of yourself, which stands in stark contrast to the person you are in this moment. Attempting something meaningful forces you to face this discrepancy. Every minute spent on a difficult goal highlights the distance between your current reality and your ideal self, creating intense psychological tension. This creates a paradox. Trying your hardest and failing shatters the illusion that you could ever become that ideal person. However, if you never start, that ideal version of you remains safe in your imagination. Your subconscious sees not trying as the only way to keep your identity intact. Beneath that fear of failure lies a deeper anxiety. Meaningful work requires us to look at the future and acknowledge the passage of time. For the human mind, focusing on the future inevitably brings up the stark reality of our own mortality. The brain uses constant distraction to block out the frightening reality of finite time. If you stay buried in the immediate noise of social media, you don't have to confront the fact that your time is limited. At its absolute core, chronic distraction is the ego's final defense against vulnerability and the inescapable reality of endings. Moving past this requires a different approach to motivation. We often treat motivation as a prerequisite, a feeling of readiness we must wait for before we can act. But large, vague goals trigger the identity fears we just discussed because they carry so much weight. A small 5-minute action is different. It feels too minor to threaten your identity or remind you of your mortality. By shrinking the task, you slip past the brain's defense system, building momentum before the ego has a chance to intervene. Punishing yourself or forcing brute discipline only increases the psychological threat. You cannot shame a defense mechanism into disappearing. You can only acknowledge the fear it's trying to hide. This image represents a better way forward, treating every urge to distract yourself as raw data. A sudden desire to scroll is a message. It signals an unmet need for rest, a lack of clarity, or a spike in self-doubt. When you acknowledge these hidden needs rather than trying to suppress them, the compulsive behavior shifts. The need for anesthesia fades once you address the source of the pain. Time doesn't demand urgency, it only asks for your attention. Once you understand the mechanism behind your distraction, you are no longer a victim of it. You have the quiet power to choose whether to stay numb or to finally listen to what your time is trying to tell you.